And I think you just clicked on started, by the way. I think we're already online about 2 minutes before. Can anybody hear me or see me or something? Yes, and I think, oh, there you are. Oh, yeah, there. Yeah, that was awesome. Yeah, okay, okay, go on. Go on ahead. Good. That was awesome. Okay, and there she is. I'm not sure what just happened, but I think somebody clicked on start, or maybe the software just automatically started the transmission, and we're already live. You can see below the chat. You can see people. Yay! Yes. About 2 minutes earlier. That is so funny. I love these kind of things. So you see, we can already start the talk by showing people that things don't always happen as planned. Right? Like, that's a true thing. It wasn't supposed to get started until like 2 minutes from now. But anyway, that's let's get started since people are already here. So hello to everybody. I see that some people are already here and saying, so my audio. Oh, okay. Let me see if I can change that. Okay. Yes, here it is. Mic. Oh, okay. Okay, I'm going to change the mic, and while I do that, I'd like just to thank everybody for coming, for being here today, right? Tonight, actually, and I'd like to start, thanking everybody, thanking participants, thanking you two for being here with me. Thank you, Cecilia, for saying yes in such short notice, less than 24 hours. So thank you very much. And also Natalia, she couldn't be here with us today, but she helped us a lot to prepare. So I'm not sure if she's watching or not, but she's probably going to see the recording. Yes. For everybody, there is a file for you to download or on shared files on your right. Yeah, on your right. Yeah. Uh, there is a PDF to like 2 MB, and it's a handout for you to follow with us. It's this somewhere here. You can click and download the PDF with a handout on the presentation, and if you have any trouble downloading it, you can also click on this link that I just sent on the chat. This is also a way that you can get the handout, okay? So while I change the microphones, Claire, would you mind going on? It started, yeah, just say hello and present.
Hi, good evening to everyone, and let me say what a pleasure it is to be here. Just doing a sound check. Can everyone there just let me know if you can hear me and see me okay? Hi, Elizabeth. Hi, Silviana. Hi, Paula. Cecilia can hear me. Deborah and Danielle already in the room. Great. It's lovely to be here with you all. I'd love to hi, Elizabeth. I'd love to thank Vinicius for this, and of course, Cecilia. I just have a quick anecdote. I messaged Cecilia and saying, "Listen, we'd love to have you step in." I don't know if you know, but she's part of the IATEFL development SIG. So we thought that she'd be the perfect person to help us with this topic. And straight away, capital letters, I got, "I love to." So big thanks to Cecilia for this. Vinicius, thanks. Can I just say a little bit how I got involved in it? Project my voice a bit more, which is what I'll be talking about when I talk about presentations. But this came because I get approached a lot by first-time speakers, and I think this topic is really, really relevant. I mean, presenting and sharing what you do is something which is so important, and we need to get more people contributing and connecting at our events so we can see new faces and new ideas. A lot of people are held back by fear of presenting, but also by not knowing what it is that needs to happen to get accepted to speak at a conference. So I'm really excited to be involved in this, and thanks very much for bringing me on board.
Yeah, and by the way, this was Claire's idea to start with, right? Yeah, she was the first one to suggest me the video on YouTube and the topic, and that's why we're here today. You see, I invited, but that was your idea to start with anyway. Yeah, so Cecilia, please.
Okay, so I'm not sure. Can everybody hear me okay?
I can.
Perfect. My name is Cecília Lemos, and I'm a teacher in Recife, in Brazil. And I know Vinicius and Claire from conferences and events and PLN and things. And I get this message from Claire last night, and I was like, yeah, okay, I'll be a part of it, but let me just make sure that I can. I mean, in the sense of, do I have what it takes to do? But it is something that I think a lot of people can benefit from when you go to events. I remember speaking to a group of younger teachers, younger because we were still very young, younger teachers last year at the BRAZ event in Rio, the BRAZ on the Road in Rio. And it was the first time they were participating in the event, and they were so in awe, and they were like, oh, I could never do that. I could never. That's not true. It's not as scary as it sounds. It's not as difficult as it sounds. It's a lot more rewarding and helps you open your eyes and develop so much more than you can initially think. And sometimes all it takes is a little push like this. So I'm very honored. Natalia's shoes are very tough to fill because she's a fantastic presenter, but I'm very honored to be here. And on that note, Claire, what you said about working with TD SIG, doing something together, Tyson Seaburn, our coordinator, is in the room, and he's just said that this is exactly topic that TD SIG is working on. So I think we have a good chance of making this happen. And I am going to talk to you, Tyson, about it.
Okay. And I was just answering Tyson over there. Yeah, not Tyson, Daniel. Yes, the webinar is going to be recorded, and we're going to release the recording as soon as possible. Yeah, if we're lucky. I hope that everybody could already download the handout. Yeah, it's on the right side, and also on the link that I sent you before. This one, yes. So please download, and as you get together, and we're going to start the presentation, and we'll start talking to you about how to get your proposals accepted. And we decided to divide this topic into different areas that are very important: the before and the after, right? How to get accepted, and after you're accepted, how to present in a better way, in a digital way. So we're not going to do like a school project, like that people just each one presents their part. This is like a conversation that we're going. So that's why we're not going to have a slide and just handouts for you. And you're the experts, so you can get started on the proposals, how to get accepted with the proposals. What would you like to start with? Cecilia, go on. Yeah.
Sorry, there's a bit of interference, some noise when you speak, and I thought you meant Claire.
Oh, okay. No. Yeah, you can get started.
Okay, I suppose the first thing that you have to do when you think about writing a proposal, when you're interested about presenting, is, as one of the topics in the handout, is know thyself, right? it's much easier, and we feel less afraid, less scared if you talk about something that you know, and that you're passionate about, and that you've probably studied more about, and you're gonna be much more successful at engaging people. You talk about something you like and work with, and about something that you have something to say. Um, now, one of the things that they say is that every event has a theme. Every event has a topic or some kind of a more specific theme that encompasses it to guide it a bit. And sometimes it's hard to find a way to think of something that is within the theme proposal, within the theme of the event. Sometimes you just, give it a little tweak to bring it into the theme, and sometimes you can't. If you can't, try to find an event or a conference that talks about something you want to talk about. That's one of the ideas. Writing is never easy, right? You have a lot of word limitations. You have to think of a title. You have to think of so many things at first. The best advice I can probably give you, which was some advice that I got the first time ever I wrote a proposal, was from a friend of mine who she was more academic, and she was more used to presenting at events, at conferences, so not English teaching, but still. And I was sitting in her house asking her to help me, and I couldn't get started. I would write a sentence and no, I don't know. No, it doesn't sound right. Oh, no, it doesn't sound interesting. Go back and delete. And I kept doing that over and over. And there was this one moment when Courtney said, Ceci, just start writing. That's what my advisor told me. Start writing. It doesn't have to make sense. It doesn't have to be the most interesting thing in the world. It can be very confusing. Just write. It's easier to write, and then you go back and edit and change and see what it doesn't make sense. And you can think that I'm only talking about the abstract or about the summary when I say that, but it's not that. Even the title, just start, get down to it. But personally, I always prefer to write the abstract first and then move on to the title or go backwards, because I think it's easier to come up with a nice title, a catchy title, something witty that will make people curious and want to go for it. If I define inside my very confused head what I want to talk about, even if in very limited, very superficial, in a superficial way. I suppose that's what I want to start with. And the same advice I read just last week. I was reading this book that a lot of people have been reading about. And this guy, apparently he used to have a blog. That's how he started writing. And he also, once he decided to start writing the blog, he said he spent days and weeks that he would sit down in front of the computer, start writing, go back, and never get anything done until somebody came up to him and said, don't try to get it right, just get it done. Just start writing it.
I love that sentence. Done is better than perfect, right? I think just like you said, get it done, get written. Afterwards, you correct it, whatever needs to be corrected. I love that sentence. I love it. That's a good book, by the way. That's a really good book. Well, besides the title, but it's a good book.
What I love finding something.
Claire, sometimes your voice isn't getting. I think you should get a little closer.
Much better.
Great. So I loved what Cecilia said about finding something you're passionate about. We often think that we need to sort of present something groundbreaking that nobody's ever said before, but it's not true. Sometimes presenting your best practice at a conference will give someone else the inspiration that they were looking for. If you're passionate about what you do, then there are people who want to hear that. And like Cecilia said, get it out there into the world, share and become a part of the community, and you'll be helping others and at the same time really helping yourself. Some of the best talks I've done have helped me in such a deep way by taking something that I really love doing with my students that has been really working for me, and presenting has made me read and then write about that. And that's been extremely beneficial to my professional development. So I loved the tone or the spirit with which this webinar has started. I think that was spot on advice there, Cecilia.
Now, that's what Claire said, and Tyson in the comments, he mentioned it as well. And I can't speak for Claire and Vinicius, but I know that this was something that I felt too, which was, you know, I had a director of studies in the school where I worked, that she kept, you know, pushing me to present at an event or something, and I kept saying, no, I don't have anything to say. I mean, you know, what can I teach anybody? And sometimes it's not about teaching. It doesn't have, Claire said it, it doesn't have to be groundbreaking. You don't have to have discovered fire or be, you know, it's not about that. Sometimes it's just sharing good practices. Sometimes it's just throwing a question out there and making people think about their own practices, making people think about what's going on around here, how can I implement it? You know, new ideas that I've heard about, how have I adapted them to my reality? How have I made them relevant into my teaching? It doesn't have to be, everybody has something to contribute. Everybody has something to contribute. That I've learned so far. You learn something every day. Anyway, let's keep it.
I completely agree. Last Saturday, I was at BRAZ-TESOL's new chapter at Triângulo Mineiro, and we were just browsing through some stuff with the minders, and I overheard two minders talking. One of them was an old friend of mine, so she knew me from a long time ago, and the other one, I haven't seen her before, and they were just talking, and I just overheard my name being said, and I said, like, what is it? And then she said, oh, my friend, she says she studies letras with me, and she's an undergraduate, and she's saying that she would like to present in events like this one, but she doesn't think she doesn't want to keep going in academic career. She doesn't want to, you know, to keep inside academics, and she doesn't think that it was possible to present. And this friend of mine, she was just explaining that I didn't go on academic careers, and I did everything after I finished my undergraduate. I did everything by myself, you know, taking a lot of studies and taking part in associations like BRAZ-TESOL and others. So we don't actually need, or it's not necessary to be an academic. Right, we have a lot to present, even if we are private teachers. We have no associations or affiliations with schools or hiring or whatever, and we can we probably have a lot to contribute, and some great activities that we have thought and nobody else knows how to do, crazy things that we do and other people don't. So yeah, everybody has something to present. We just need to figure out what would be interesting for the other people, right? So yeah, Cecilia, I think you can go on with that schedule, and then will make comments during the presentation.
Oh, I think I'm going to play a bit of the devil's advocate here, and Vinicius says, well, you know, everybody has something to share, everybody has something to say, and you just have to what was it, the last thing you said? Something about sharing something or talking about something that people are interested in.
Yes, exactly. To figure out something that people might want to hear, or something that it's new for them and attractive.
Perfect. And how do I find out about what people want to hear or what they will find interesting? How, you know, we have so many different people, different teachers, different interests. How do I know what people will find interesting? What do you guys think? What do you find interesting? That's a good question. You guys who are in the room, and Claire and Vinicius as well, what do you find interesting when you go to a conference, when you go to an event? How do you choose the talks and the sessions that you're going to attend? Don't be afraid of silence.
Yeah, sure. Claire, would you mind stepping in? And people, everybody else who's also watching, you can type on the chat. We're following.
Well, when I first came to Brazil, I spent the first 4 years basically hiding out of my classroom, and I had no idea.
Come closer. Come a little bit closer.
I had no idea that there was an ELT community in Brazil. I had come from Barcelona, where ELT was, I was in a thriving community, and felt very alone and went into my classroom. But what I did discover was that Brazil does have an ELT community, and being in Vitoria, I think, was no excuse not to connect. Nowadays, there are so many teaching forums. So when Cecilia asks, how do you know what people are interested in hearing about? For me, it was getting connected online and listening to, asking questions in forums, asking for help, but also looking at the questions people are asking. And a lot of those questions I had answers to. And a lot of those doubts and fears that people had, you might be able to answer, and you might be able to create a talk about something that you're doing or some research that you've done, or you probably can find out what the hot topics are in ELT in Brazil just by participating in online forums. I think that's been something very interesting for me.
I have to agree. I think that BRAZ is an excellent way of knowing what people are discussing or not within our national context. And also, don't be afraid of going into, we talked about having a passion, don't be afraid of going into what your interests are.
Yeah.
We talk about choosing something, know thyself, choose something that you like to talk about and that what to say. Tyson mentioned he chooses starting with his own context, which is English for academic purposes, and which is also an interest, and then move on to other interests that he has. I'm crazy about feedback and observation and correction. So when I go to a conference, those are keywords that I look for, and then I go on to other things. But it's not bad. You don't have to talk about what's hot in the ELT, but it is interesting. It is a good move if you try to find out what people are talking about, because one of those things might be of interest to you, and then you go deeper into it.
Yeah. And you know what? The simplest ideas and topics and presentations are usually the most crowded ones, right? If you go to many basic stuff like how to teach whatever, you put in front of that sentence, how to teach speaking, listening, pronunciation, how to teach songs, how to teach whatever you put in front of how to teach is usually a very crowded session. So people like that, and that's basic, right? You don't need to get so much further or so trendy in a hot topic to get there.
Yeah, sharing best practices, sharing good ideas, and they're always a good way of attracting people, especially teachers who are also, be novice to the event and things. Because to be really honest, what I think the biggest drive we have when we're choosing the sessions that we go to at an event is something that can bring me benefit. May it be make my life easier when I'm teaching or planning my lessons, or give me ideas or more to go on my field of study or research, or get me connected to people who are interested in the same thing I am. But yeah, I think definitely. See, Betty is saying hands-on sessions attract me the most. Usually those are the biggest crowd pleasers and the ones that attract the most people, I have to say. And as everybody has said here before, don't be afraid of, you're just sharing 4 or 5 different activities with the group. I hate when I use just, as I'm just a teacher, but it's not just sharing. Sharing 5 or 6 activities that you've done and that have worked really well with you. And that's wonderful. Somebody's going to go out with 5 or 6 activities. That's actually that's how I started. Sharing activities I used with my conversation classes, I don't know, 10 years ago, 15 years ago or so. And then you move on, and then you see that it works, and you feel more confident, and you start paying attention. What do I do that work? What do I do that makes people that observe me compliment on? Or find your strengths. That's another idea too. Ask people to observe you. Ask peers to observe you. Ask them what do you like most. What do pay attention to their feedback. What they say that calls attention when they're observing you. That's different somehow. I don't know.
Let me just add something here as well. Sometimes we fear that sometimes, I need to just speak louder. Sometimes we fear that we're not an expert on a topic, so we can't be presenting. But let me tell you, first started experimenting with loose parts play in the young learner classroom. I wasn't an expert, but you can be sure that I became an expert by the time I had to present, because when I knew that this was something really special that was worth sharing with my community, I got down and dirty with the books and I read everything that I could, and that in turn helped me develop my teaching practice, which then fed into the presentation. And it's like a cycle. It's like a cycle. I love the idea of presenting practical ideas that teachers can use, but I also love the idea of the presenter having found and researched the why behind that, so that it's founded on something solid, and that really helps us develop. I think that's been a huge part of my professional development, with having this objective of presenting an idea, so forcing myself to really understand what's going on in practice, why it's successful. And look at what Elizabeth said. Look at what Elizabeth said there. Most of us fear we're not good enough. Yeah.
We all feel like that, Betty.
Well, that's the hurdle I hope everyone watching this webinar will overcome tonight.
Something that Claire said is really interesting, and I think that she's not alone at that. When we talk about presenting being such a fantastic tool, a fantastic mean to professional development, it's exactly what Claire said. You choose a topic you're passionate about, or that you enjoy, or that you practical activities, and you go for it, and you start preparing your presentation, and to know what you're going to be talking about and feel comfortable about it. You research, you do so much research, and you think and you rethink, that you learn a lot more than you would have in most other situations. So it's a win-win situation. You learn more, you share, you spread the joy, and I think that's what we all want here.
You see, about the not good enough thing, I think this is so interesting because when I started as a master of ceremonies in Mato Grosso do Sul, right, it was like a complete surprise. I wasn't ready for it. I went there to present, to talk just like everybody else. And then at the night before, the person who was supposed to be the master of ceremonies, he had some problems, and he told me, like, out of the blue, that I needed to be the master of ceremonies the other day, and he gave me a few sheets of paper with something to read. And I said, okay, but how am I supposed to do it? I've been master of ceremonies in other events of other things, but never in the OT. and it was really funny. And I at the moment I actually thought, can I do that? Like, is it something that I can do? And when you say that, the thing was. I think that's what most of us fear. We're not good enough. I think that is exactly what I thought at the moment. Like all those people watching me, and there were like over 500. I don't remember the exact number, but over 500 registrations. So I'm gonna get a stage with all those people looking at me, and I'm not sure how to do that in these kind of events. And you know what is so interesting is that when you're there, I had like a few hours from Friday evening to Saturday morning to study and to see videos and to watch videos saying something about that and to ask some questions to a few friends. And what should I do? And they just I was trying out to do, and it was a feeling kind of, it fades away as soon as you start. When you step on the stage and you get the microphone, or when you get your presentation started, like in the first 2 minutes, all these feelings of not being good enough and all those anxiety feelings, they kind of fade away. And I can assure you that we're all so anxious right before it started, before this webinar today, right? And the minute it starts, okay, can you hear me? Yes, yes. Can you see me? Yes, yes. Okay, okay. Is it working? Yes, yes, it's working. So, okay, good. So, okay, let's go now. Let's talk, right? So this is something really interesting to get it done, right? Get it done and things work. I can hear you.
Sorry, I mute my microphone when I'm not speaking. We're here, the intention here is to help everybody that feels uncomfortable, feels unsure about writing a proposal. So I think that the first hurdle, we've gone over that, which is I don't have anything to say. You know, I'm not good enough. Everybody is good enough. Everybody has something to say, and we all learn from what you share. Even if it's to disagree, I hear you say, I don't agree with you say, but you made me think about it and decide that I don't agree with you. That's already helping in some way. So we've come down, we've gone superficially through, but we have mentioned the second step, which is to actually get started. How do I know what to talk about? So you choose something you know, you think, okay, I'm going to talk about this, and get it down, start writing. Again, my advice is start with the abstract, which is a brief description of what you're going to be talking about. So you write what you can even use a conversational tone, which usually is what people do. Write what you're going to be talking about. Then edit it to the number of words. See if it correctly describes what you're going to be doing and what is the outcome. What will people get out of your session with? What's your intention with the session, right? Anybody?
Absolutely.
Start writing about it. If you want, you can ask somebody to read it for you and help you edit. I did that. It helps to have peer editors, but somebody to revise it always helps, especially when we're still very insecure. And from there, I would move on to the title. If Claire and Vinicius don't have anything else to add to the abstract. Oh, Claire.
I mentioned before about sort of participating in forums and identifying problems that people are having with their teaching, and realizing that I had something to share because I had a solution to those problems. I think when writing an abstract, what I personally like to do is start my abstract by presenting a problem that teachers have. And then you sort of include this, so you're straight away getting attention or connecting with the person who's reading. So the person who's reading thinks, you know what, that she just hit the nail on the head. That is a problem that I have. And then you deliver this, what's in it for me? So what is it that, or how is it that this session is going to deal with that problem? And then a lot of, depending on the specifications from the conference, but a lot of them will actually ask you to describe a little bit of what you're actually going to do, which Cecilia already mentioned. So then I sort of say, in this workshop I'm going, or participants will be, and then you describe some of the activities that are going to go on. But two key ingredients for me in a good abstract is one that straight away connects with the pain that a teacher feels, and then explains how attending this session will solve that problem. And that's two tips that I've found for writing powerful abstracts.
I completely agree with Claire. And if anybody here has ever taught writing to a higher level or more advanced level, you may have come across the terms topic sentence and thesis statement, and how you have to grab the reader's attention within the first 1-2 sentences in a paragraph. That is very much true for the abstract. I love the idea, and I also do that by problematizing first. What am I going to give you? What is the problem that I'm going to be addressing, or why am I here speaking? And if you put that out front, right there, grab your reader's attention enough so that at least they will read it to the end of the abstract. It sounds like but it's not. Especially when you go to a bigger conference and you have 20 sessions, 20 concurrent sessions. I don't always read every single abstract. I read the first 2 sentences and from there decide whether to read it to the end or not.
And imagine also the people selecting who gets in and who doesn't. They're reading so many abstracts. So you want to be thinking about even getting accepted. You want to be making what you're talking about appear relevant, and you want it to be relevant. You need to communicate that in your abstract, that it's relevant, it solves the problem, and how you're going to do that.
Yeah, that's exactly what Tyson just said it. That's exactly what a good title, an impactful title, like Tyson says, is so important, right? It's the first thing that catches the eye, and then you go to the abstract, like to the 2 lines of the abstract. So you were going to say about titles?
No, that's something that I think there are 2 good things. Titles are important, but before titles, still talking about abstract, what Claire said is extremely important. We have 2 moments here. It's not only about once I get accepted, I want my session to have people, because one of the biggest fears we have once we're accepted is there's going to be nobody in my session. But first you have to be accepted, and yes, you still have to grab that reader's attention. I read proposals for different conferences and different events, both national and international, and we do read everything just because you have to, in the sense of, if a person has sent in a proposal, the very least you can do is read the entire proposal. But yeah, the first 2 or 3 lines already engage me. I'm a person after all, and they engage me, and they interest me, or, oh, this is really well written. For instance, I'm not you teach young learners is not one of my favorite topics. Now it kind of is, but it has never been one of the top 3 topics. But even when I was reading an abstract by somebody talking about young learners, there is a way that you write that you're like, so that would be interesting. I'd like to know more about that. Or I'm not interested in young learners, but I believe, when I think of my friends and people who are, I believe they would be interested to hear more about that. So yeah, get your proposal accepted first.
I completely agree. You said you were going to say something about the titles. We just. Oh, go on.
But, well, Tyson already said, and I think that for me personally, deciding on my title is the hardest thing when I write a proposal, because being impactful, I always try to be impactful, be out of the ordinary, avoid those how to teach, how to motivate, how to try something funny, try something. Again, that's my personal, I like that. I like a title that makes me stop and think, what's that guy going to talk about? Or I wonder how the person is going to approach that. I play with words. I something that may have more than one meaning, or I don't know. I like that, and always within the limit of words and always within the theme. I like sometimes asking a question and writing a witty answer. I don't know.
I think this is why peers are so interesting, right? I saw Claire typing something about peers on the chat. Sometimes when we show titles to peers, they can give you a very insightful advice on maybe on how to make those word plays, or how to change something in order to make it even more interesting, right? Because when you're writing something, it's so clear to us, to our minds, and what is the stuff that I'm going to say. But maybe when you show it to peers, they might give you a very different insight, and it makes the whole difference at the end. Was that it you were going to say about peers, Claire?
Yeah, I was a first-time presenter for a mentor. I think that as a first-time presenter, you should certainly have a mentor with you throughout this process, or a group of peers who you can bounce ideas off, send abstracts, get feedback. I'm constantly sent abstracts by WhatsApp. People will just like, Claire, read this. And even now, even with all the experience that I have now, I still send my abstracts to peers to get feedback, because it's just an important part of the process. So Paula's question, that was in answer to Paula's questions, to get somewhere, someone to help you at the beginning to decide, and then you're on your own. No, look, especially for first time speakers, get help the whole way through. And if you are a woman in ELT, you can contact Voices. We are here to help women. As part of my voluntary work for Voices, I mentor people all the time through this process. If you are a BRAZ-TESOL speaker, you're going to be speaking at the BRAZ-TESOL conference, get in contact with them because they have a mentoring program as well. There are lots of people out there willing and excited to help you, the new speaker, join the conference circuit, so to speak, so do ask. TESOL France, oh no, Tyson. The deadline's tomorrow. Tyson, if you want me to review your abstract later, just send it to me via WhatsApp.
No, but what Claire, and teachers, I have to say teachers are the most sharing, willing to help profession I've ever come across. And it's what, you ask for help for your peers, you ask for the organizations, BRAZ-TESOL National has a program, the different SIGs have programs. We're all volunteers, and what we want is for more and more people to get involved and to get presenting and to get into sharing best practices, because we all win from that.
Well, let me just speed things up. It's 8:42, and we have an hour. Otherwise, people will start to get bored and just leave us talking to ourselves. I'd like also to touch the topic of the presentation itself, what to do and how to get it done, and yeah.
Well, listen, what I think about everything, I'm going to go back to the beginning and reiterate what Cecilia said about passion. One of the first things she said was find something that you love to do. And it's not only really important in choosing a topic, that passion is essential, and one of the key ingredients, and this is something which has been researched and discovered, that one of the key characteristics that separate a good presenter from a poor presenter is that passion. And it's not enough to have passion about the topic. You need to know how you can transmit that passion through your posture, through your gesture, and through your connection with the audience. It sounds complicated. The good news is it's not that complicated. And it's something that is learned. People are not born good presenters. A lot of people say, oh, you have to be natural. Don't waste your time with techniques. I beg to differ. I think that no one is naturally a good presenter, because presenting is not natural. It is not naturally part when we have a conversation with someone, we don't present to them, we converse with them. But when you're on a stage in front of people and you're trying to convince them of your ideas and you're trying to get them passionate about the same thing as you, there are specific techniques that you can use to make that happen. And I'd like to share a few of those with you now. I'm not an expert, but I have given a lot of presentations in my time, and I want to share with you the 5 R's that I have learned, I'm not born with, learned to enhance my presentation skills. The first one, it seems like a no-brainer, but you will be surprised how many very clever people do not do this. Rehearse. Rehearse. Don't think that you can just write notes and then get up there on the day and deliver a killer presentation without having practiced it 8 times. Apparently 8's the magic number. I don't know where that number's come from. But somebody once said to me 8 times, and I swear 8 is a really magic number. So there's nothing wrong with referring to your notes on the day, but there is something very wrong with the person who doesn't leave the page. I'm actually guilty of having my notes in my hand. I don't refer to them a lot because I've rehearsed them 8 times. But I use them like a crutch. They're like a so have notes, but don't do this. Don't do this. So rehearse it so that it comes naturally to you, and you don't need to read for your presentation. And you need to do this standing up.
Claire, can I interrupt you for, let me see if I can find it, because I was just going over something yesterday. Yeah, okay. Personally, I don't like rehearsing. Rehearsing makes me more nervous. I mean, rehearsing, you know, I know a lot, I have a lot of friends, I listen to friends, you know, the night before their presentation or so, can I rehearse it to you? I've heard the same presentation 3 or 4 times in the same night, because that helps. And, you know, you have to, you know, try using your voice more like this. I've done that so many times. But for personally, I don't like rehearsing. It makes me more nervous. But I don't rehearse it as you said. But what I do is I write down. And I'm saying this because I was putting away some papers yesterday, and this is, I have my slides, but I have everything I want to say.
Scripted.
On every slide. And as Claire said, of course I don't have my papers, but just the you know, the sole fact of sitting down with the slides and writing down what I want to say at that moment there, that helps me. And when I see the image that I have on the slide, it triggers, you know, it's a trigger as to remind me what I want to talk about. And if I do blank, because it has happened, it does, it once happened at the Pachachka I did, and Tyson might laugh about it, but I completely blanked what I was going to say, so I kept going back to my notes, which was very funny for the audience, I suppose. But you can run to your notes, but just the fact to write down what you plan to say is a type of rehearsal. So it doesn't mean that you have to go in front of a mirror or to another person and do it.
I absolutely believe, though, that when you're first starting off, there's a lot of things going on in your presentation, in your performance, in your delivery. And if you are if you are using techniques to help enhance your presentation skills, these kinds of things will happen naturally with experience, but you can speed up the whole process by rehearsing and by practicing these so that they do become second nature. I agree with Tyson, and I agree with you too, Cecilia. An overly rehearsed, a presentation that appears overly rehearsed isn't one that was actually rehearsed too much. I think it was one that's a person who's not employing the technique or delivering in a natural way because they don't feel comfortable. I think that for me personally, rehearsal allows me to have certain physical things about my performance to become second nature, so that I can focus on what's really important today, and that's connecting. And if you go.
You know what? About rehearsing, I like rehearsing for some parts of the presentation. I don't like rehearsing the entire thing because it also makes me a little bit. She's this way. It also makes me a little bit nervous. But you know what? I love rehearsing because of my timing. I tend to speak too much, and I tend to, I have like 40 minutes, and I have like a presentation for an hour, and it's really interesting. The first time I gave you the presentation that I've been presenting on BRAZ-TESOL, the first time I wrote it, I prepared it for an hour, and then the second time I needed to present it, it was 45 minutes. And the last two times I presented it, it was 40 minutes. So every time I need to cut it down a little bit more. And, I have two options. So I can either speak like even faster than what I already do, which is not good because people would not understand me at all. Or I need to cut down some part of the information. Or actually, there's a third choice, not having a Q&A at the end. Right, so I need to do one of these three things. Either I speak faster, or I cut down, I cut off the Q&A, or I cut off some slides. I don't rehearse the entire things, it makes me nervous, but I like to have like Cecilia showed the written thing. I like to have a lot of bullet points, lots and lots of them. So my slides, they are usually full of bullet points, because I need to remember every little thing just by looking at the bullet points. So my slides will not be overloaded with text. At the same time, I will not sound, I think when Tyson said over-rehearsed, he meant what I am very, very afraid of, that is sounding too robotic. Like memorized everything I wrote, and then I'm trying to remember that I wrote that sentence about just like that, and it sounds so robotic. So that's why I don't like to rehearse too much, but I also don't like to write the entire thing. I have just a lot of bullet points, and I need to not improvising. I don't think improvising is the right word, but to continue the topics. Exactly.
No improvisation.
Yeah, so
if you follow Claire's Claire, if you follow Claire's first advice as to know what you're talking about, so to be ready for it, there's going to be no improvising. The whole thing about, oh my God, I thought about saying this word. What is the word? Don't get caught up on words. Don't even get caught up on sentences or ideas. This is another golden advice I've gotten, and it is about presenting, and I've passed it on, and it's wonderful to pass it on to other people, which is the people who are in the audience have no idea what you plan to say. So if you skip something, if you don't say this one sentence or this one item that you had planned, it's not the end of the world, because guess what? The audience doesn't know you didn't mention it and you forgot it. You're the only person who knows it.
There's a lot of things that we do when we're presenting that we're very much unaware of that can be very distracting. So when we say be natural, there's nothing natural about standing in front of an audience and presenting. There isn't. And what tends to happen, what people do, is a lot of tics, verbal tics begin appearing. And you'll get the or my personal favorite, after every point that you make. And these are some things which you need to try and reduce as much as possible. And you can do some. I have verbal tics that I have not even been aware of until I've seen a recording of myself. Like, I say, I'm like. I use the word like all the time as if I was a valley girl. And it's something that I've had to consciously reduce because it can be very distracting, very distracting. So I think that you need to practice your presentation, focusing on enhancing your delivery so that when you are actually on the day, there are things which just feel natural to you to do. So one of those things might be the way you look around when you're talking. When you are nervous on the stage, especially the first time, your instinct is to talk to the people in the first row. And you look at them and you talk to them and you know everyone else in the room. I've seen it so many times. I've done it as well. And with time and practice, you learn to connect with people in the room by moving your head around. Not this, you're not a lighthouse, you know, but this is another technique. It is another technique that we can use. But like I said, if they don't look natural, then it has the opposite effect to what you want. So don't say, oh, Claire said to move her head around, and then in your presentation do things. But do be aware of the techniques that you can employ to make this very unnatural event appear more like and feel more like. So there's some tips for things that you can do in the days leading up. You've written your presentation. It's not the night before, Tyson. You've written it in advance. You've got your script, like Cecilia said, or your bullet points. You've gone through them. And what can you do? And this was a technique that I learned from a workshop that I did at ELT in Barcelona last year. They actually, for all of the speakers, they had a free CE on giving presentations. This, for me, what I'm about to share with you, gold, okay? 20 minutes before your presentation. If you are nervous about your presentation, there are some things you can do that will channel those nerves. And instead of having anxiety and that throwing you off your game, you can channel those and it becomes adrenaline, which makes you better perform. I love that.
There are many techniques, right, to be used, like the presentations. I like them all. I think they're so interesting. I love the humming techniques. You know, the hum, the I love all those voicing techniques. And do you know the one that you bite a pen? You get a pen and you bite it, like, yeah. And before the presentation, of course. By the way, do that like in the bathroom, right? So that people don't think you're crazy. Yeah. You bite down the pen and you talk for like a minute. And of course, your voice, your tongue will not move as expected, but it's going to. Your voice is not going to come out as it's supposed to. But it's very similar to when you're learning how to play the guitar and you put those rubber bands around your fingers, so that you have to extra force your fingers to play, and you release the rubber bands. Your fingers are much stronger and agile than they were before. That happens the same with your with all your phonetic musculature, and it's so useful. Yeah, you actually bite down. You start talking like this. You start talking like this for like 1 minute, and actually helps. Really, it's crazy, but it does help.
There's a TED talk which I don't remember the name of right now. I apologize. But this is something that I could use, and it is the power pose. And the position of your body has been shown to either increase or decrease your nerves. So by standing like Wonder Woman, which is hands on hip, right? Feet apart, hands on hip, just like Wonder Woman. Just go into the bathroom, stand in that position with a pen clenched between your teeth. This is getting crazy. This advice. But I swear, if you are suffering from nerves before you go on stage, and some people really suffer, you want to try and channel those and giving yourself some positive affirmations. And I actually like to visualize myself on stage, delivering a wonderful presentation, and I like to visualize the response from the audience and the connection from the audience. And I talk to myself, and I give myself positive affirmations. Sounds crazy, but it is really, really effective. And I recommend those using those techniques get you into the right frame of mind where you have to deliver.
Cecilia is probably going to think that we're completely crazy with those absurd suggestions, but I swear it works.
It is known to work. It's very, very common about among people who have to deliver big presentations and suffer from stage fright, which is a real thing.
Your mic's off. Your mic's off. Not yet? Okay, I can see your lips moving, but not yet. Maybe on the left side there is an audio button with an audio icon, a microphone icon. Yep. Is it green, like flashing green? Does that headset of yours has like a mute button on the cable? Yes, yeah, that's okay.
See, Vinicius sources out my tech, my tech problem. I had hit the mute button. I have a friend. Sometimes what Claire said about pose does make a lot of difference. Sometimes it helps you. Some people feel more secure if they have something holding on one of their hands.
Right.
Maybe something small like a pen or the clicker itself, or but don't keep fiddling with your hands or putting your hands in your put your hands in your pocket. Just move around. You can use your hands for gesturing or hold on to something so you don't fiddle around with it. And one thing that Claire said, and we mentioned about not reading notes. Don't read notes. Don't read slides, please. Participants can read the slides. Over and over I hear people saying it's boring when somebody's presenting and they're just reading what's written on the slides. If all I'm doing is to hear you read the slides, I can just have you email me the slides and that's the presentation. You're more special than that. You put on the slides what you need, references or quotes or things that you need to trigger what we talked about, what you're going to talk about, what you know, or a video or something. But anything special that it's your touch to the presentation. It's what you're going to talk about. Don't write it down. Just say it.
Exactly. And that brings me to the last 2 hours, so we can finish this up now, is another thing which has been really important that makes your presentation get off on the right foot is the blink effect. The blink effect is the first 10 seconds that you have to make the right impression. And this is perhaps the most important part of your talk, because let's keep it in a positive vibe. You need to practice this well. You need to have your posture to convey confidence. You need to make eye contact with friendly faces and smile. Your body language should be welcoming and relaxed. Get that right in the first 10 seconds and you've already won over your audience. Think about where your hands are, like she said, because they convey messages to you that change the way that you feel about yourself. So if those first 10 seconds you are calm, confident, you are smiling, welcoming, your hands are usually fiddling because you're fighting those nerves, get those first 10 seconds right and you will have won the audience and you will get yourself into the right mind frame, okay? Be confident in those first 10 seconds with how you deliver. And the last thing is relationships. And this has been something which ties in with everything we've been talking about. Relationship with your content, passion.
Get a little closer.
The passion that's about relationships is the passion that you transmit about your content. your audience, the relationship with your audience, and the relationship with your space. If you can connect with all three of those, your performance will be genuine, engaging, and effective. And so you can do this by not just talking about a topic that you're passionate about, but conveying that with the way you vary the pace and volume of your voice, your gestures, the way you move in the space. And all three things, when you get those in sync, it feels very natural. So this is something that you can master. Don't think that it's out of the box crazy. I think it's that was just 5 things you remember.
You know, I used to be. I don't think that is something that I can actually change, but I used to be even more. I used to be very, very shy. When I was a teenager, you know, that teenager that would sit at the end of the classroom and not talk to anybody. I was like, never called to. I was really, really shy. When I was 16 years old, I had a speech course. It was a 3-month long speech course, and I learned a lot I learned how to prepare ideas and how to, you know, put them in order, and how to hold the microphone, and how to walk on a stage, and how to talk to the audience. And it was one of the greatest courses I have ever taken in my life, because I actually learned how to talk and how to be able to communicate with people, because I couldn't before that. I just wouldn't talk to people. And a lot of actually what I love the best is to play the part. I imagine that when I am presenting something, I have a part to play. So I feel like I'm an actor. You know, that some people say that I should be a Projac, you know, working for Globo or something, because you know, stupid jokes like this one, they come naturally when I start presenting. And if you talk to me like privately, I will probably not make these stupid jokes. But I've learned that when people laugh or when they simply smile, it makes me less anxious than I was before. So I'm not sure if laugh is the right word, but I try to make people smile every so often, and so that my anxiety levels would drop. You know, so that's why I try to do that very often, and it works. It really works. And there's just one problem with that, one downside. There are some people that just don't smile, right? So you know, all of those jokes, and I'm telling all those funny stories, and there is this person or this group of people that are not smiling. And in that case, I focus away from them. I stop looking at them, because looking at grumpy faces, you know, makes me even more nervous. So I try not to look at them. I look at people who are actually interacting and asking things, and looking at me, and taking pictures. And these people are the ones I focus, because that actually drops a lot my anxiety levels, and make me I don't know, a better speaker, might say.
Yeah, definitely focus, definitely keep your eyes on, again, not on just one person, like Claire said, but find a few people in the audience that look sympathetic, that look empathizing, and focus on them to direct your looks. It's always encouraging. I think the last thing I want to say is the same way that I said, you know, when you're writing, share with your peers for opinions. And I mentioned teachers as the most giving, sharing, willing to help people that I know. That goes just as well for being in the audience. I can guarantee to you that if you have, whether you have 10 people in the audience, 20, 50, 100, 200 people in the audience, chances are most of them will either want to be like you because they've never presented, and they say, oh my God, I wish I had the guts to present like this person is presenting. Or B, that there have been where you are. They have been in your shoes. They have felt as nervous. We know how nervous you're feeling, especially if you're your first time presenter. And we feel empathetic, even when the tech doesn't work, when the whole world starts I once had to give a presentation where I only had 40 minutes, and I spent the first 15 minutes. There was some kind of crazy thing happen at the conference center in Liverpool, and I can't remember where, but and I had to start the whole present. You know, after the first 2-3 minutes, the technician came and said, "Yeah, that's going to take a while because the power went down and so on." But and what do I have? I wouldn't have another 40 minutes. I started without my slides. I started just talking. Don't panic. You know, go on with it. Everybody in the audience has had a class where tech failed and they had to teach very different from plan, or a presentation to a board of directors, or even the first day of class. I always get nervous on the first day of class. So remember that people are your friends. They're not judging you. They're not there to mock you, or you know, they will be friendly and empathetic and help you along the way.
Everyone's very sweet. I just think that Cecilia's closing remarks here, I can't think of anything else to add, because that is just so true. People in the audience are rooting for you, Cecilia. I just think that's a beautiful sentiment to end this on, for everybody, all the first-time presenters to know, and for me to remember when I present, is that the people in the audience are, you know, there for you. They're not there to judge you.
They're all.
They don't know, right? They don't know. Imagine like a dance presentation. If you miss a step, the audience doesn't know that step should be there, right? So if you miss a slide, if you miss, I don't know, a point that you wanted to say, or something that you wanted to say at a specific moment, your audience doesn't know that. So it maybe could be better, but they just don't know it, and it's just fine. It's just perfect in their eyes. It's just perfect, right? So let's wrap this up. Thank you very much for coming, for being here, both Claire and Cecilia, on short notice. And I'm looking, everybody's still here. So thank you for commenting. So many comments here from Tyson, from Leandro, from Paula, Deborah, Vilma, and so many other people that commented on the chat before. This webinar is going to be recorded, right? I hope so, at least, because it's the first time I'm using this too, but it says rec on the top, so I hope this is being recorded. I will release it to you probably tomorrow. So thank you very much. Would you like to say anything else before we close it?
If anyone wants a mentor or needs help, contact BRAZ-TESOL or the Voices for Women SIG, because there are lots of volunteers there willing to help you. That's all.
And thank you, Vinicius and Claire, for thinking of me. And I hope I was able to help in some way, in the sense of giving some confidence and tips. And my last words to anybody who is considering presenting or proposing for the first time. Writing a proposal. Proposing too. I know we can give tips on that. But
it's valid.
but writing a proposal and sending in. Do it. The worst thing that can happen is for you not to be accepted. I have been refused.
Me too.
Many times, and I still do it. It's part of life. But do it as a challenge for this year. You can't send anything in for BRAZ-TESOL because we're nearly there. We have a month to go, a month and a little bit. But look into the next conferences, and sending in a proposal, getting accepted doesn't mean you have to go. Sometimes I've been accepted and then I didn't have the money to go, or I changed my mind about going. But start getting your proposals out there, so you start working on them. Practice makes perfection. And as Claire said, look out for peers, look out for tutoring. Plenty, the organizations, national organizations, have plenty of people who are willing to help. And once again, thank you for inviting me, and I hope everybody has a lovely holiday tomorrow.
Yay!
Ain't that a great ending? Tyson just said that if you want to know where to try for, check out the link for a current list. and there's a lot of BRAZ-TESOL conferences throughout the second semester this year. So I love this challenge. Yeah, I love the challenge. Let's send something, write a proposal. So thank you all very much. And please share this video with people that you think will enjoy it and will need this kind of information. So goodbye, good evening.
Good night.
Night, night.